After the Arsenal women produced a stunning comeback against French side Lyon to make the Women's Champions League final, Mikel Arteta's side hosted PSG last night in their bid to become finalists in Europe's primary competition for the first time since 2006. It took just 4 minutes for Ousmane Dembele to strike and shock Emirates Stadium, with the Gunners unable to find an equaliser. After the match, Mikel Arteta told the media that Arsenal need to do something special in the second leg to secure their spot in the final.
So two very good teams where the margins are so small, and they had efficiency in front of the goal, and their keeper as well made a difference to see the result that we've seen tonight. I think the game had phases, the first 15-20 minutes, especially them scoring so early in a great combination play when the margins are so thin, the finishing is unbelievable. And then we had especially one issue that we corrected after 15-20 minutes, and we sustained that for the rest of the game, which I think it turned the game around. And you want to win the Champions League final, you have to do something special, and we're going to have to do something special in Paris to be there.
Well, joining us now to provide the PSG angle from the first leg is French football expert Julian Luron. Julian, how you doing, mate? Good to see you.
Hello, boys. Good to see you too, my friend.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, indeed.
Great French, Perry, by the way.
Merci beaucoup.
It's definitely better than mine, I'll give you that. Julian, after the demolition of Real Madrid in the first leg at Emirates Stadium, I think there were a lot of people out there that felt that Arsenal had a great chance of doing something similar. So what's the reaction been to what happened in the first leg from the kind of French angle? Is there an excitement? Was it expected? Did they see it coming?
I'm not sure if they expected coming, but I think there's a lot of positive, obviously, when a team goes away and win 1-0. I think it's 11 of the last 13 that won the first leg away from home in the semi-final and qualified for the final. I think it's 85%. So it's usually a good thing when you go away in the first leg of a semi-final and win it. I think from the PSG point of view and from the French media, or what we've been saying back home, is for a PSG team that maybe for the last 4 weeks or so hadn't been as good as they used to be earlier in the year, in January, between January and March, what we saw against Liverpool, for example, or the second half against City. They were back at that. And certainly the first 25 minutes, they were at their best. I mean, Harry and Perry, all of us watch Arsenal all the time too. I can't really remember, or it's maybe not that I can remember, but it's really rare that an away team comes to the Emirates and just walk over the team like this. Like the first 20 minutes, if you look at the stats for the first 20 minutes and for the rest of the game, it's just day and night, really. And those first 20-25 minutes, PSG was so good with the ball, without the ball, in their pressing, the counter-pressing, plus the goal that came after a sequence of 27 passes, 1 minute 10, 9 outfield players touching the ball. It was just like, it was incredible football, really. After that, things level up because there's actually not much between the two teams, I think, really. And Arsenal still have a chance, of course, to overturn the tie, even in Paris. But I thought those first 25 minutes, some of the best football I've seen this season, all competition, all league, all team combined.
Julian, you mentioned the first 25 minutes where I think we was lucky to get away with 1-0, to be honest, because they were that dominant. In the days of algorithms, logarithms, you got all the analysts on the side. Why didn't Arsenal combat Dembele dropping deep, not playing as a centre forward, going based into the centre circle, which he did twice before he actually scored his goal? And there was no one within 20 yards. So why do you think Arsenal didn't combat that?
It's a great question. And I think the party absent, I think it was Harry who mentioned it in his introduction, which is right. We've all talked about it. But I think there was always going to need a bit of time for Merino and Rice especially to adapt to different positions for them compared to where they've played most of the last few weeks, really. And if you remember the goal that PSG scored away at Liverpool, it's a very similar pattern of play where Nuno Mendes plays the ball centrally to Dembele, who's dropping. Van Dijk and Konate don't go with him, neither of them. They stay where they are for that back four to be in line. The ball goes to Barcola, it's across. And this one is to Dembele. Nobody from Saliba or Kivio has gone with him. Rice and Merino are nowhere to be seen because they're just marking and pressing other players. Then Kvaratskhelia. Maybe the most disappointing in a way is how can Dembele find that space then on the edge of the box to get the ball back from Kvaratskhelia, because it's fine maybe to let him drop, but I think at some point Merino or Rice should have kept running with him to prevent him from having all that space to... It's a great finish, but still he should not have that much space around him.
Simon, there's been a lot made of the Emirates Stadium atmosphere last night, and there's been a lot of talk about the tifo that was unveiled pre-kickoff. Do you think that had an impact on the game, the atmosphere? Was you surprised by how flat it went after PSG took the lead?
I mean, I thought the atmosphere was great for the first sort of 10 minutes before the kickoff, and Arteta, he stressed before the Real Madrid game he wants everyone in there early. The same for this game where the fans were there early, they packed it out. And I think it's just credit to PSG, really, because I think what they did is they took the atmosphere out of that stadium with the way they played. And I think everyone in there knew PSG was a good team, but the way they played in that 20-25 minutes, suddenly everyone realised, OK, we're in for a proper game here. And then the second half, I thought the fans came out. They were back early. There was no one in the sort of concourse. They were there. Mourinho scores a goal. VAR rules out for offside. And again, it sucks the momentum out of the stadium. So I think the fans kind of are always dictated by what happens on the pitch. And I think you've got to give credit to PSG for the way they made the atmosphere change from what it was, before the kickoff. Yeah,
I agree with that. I think, we talk a lot about atmospheres and we talk a lot about the fans' responsibility to kind of deliver a certain type of atmosphere. But if what you're seeing on the pitch doesn't give you that feeling, it's very hard to kind of manufacture that excitement. I don't know about you guys, but I was sitting in the stands last night with my head in my hands for the first 25 minutes because PSG were all over us. And it's very difficult in those circumstances to kind of be super positive and roar and be behind the team. Julian, the PSG fans were very loud, as they always are. Away support always tends to be brilliant. And I think RMC Sport described the Emirates Stadium as a cathedral of silence. Can Arsenal expect a very tough atmosphere in the return leg?
Yeah, I mean, the Parc des Princes has been incredible. Those ultras are just very special, I think, to be fair. I agree with Sai, though, on the atmosphere being there. I think that there's those moments where it was the same again at Liverpool. When Dembele scores after 10 minutes, they put the AC on, and then suddenly, even at Liverpool, when they were in the lead going into that second leg, after that, it was flat there too, because it was almost like you get knocked out and you need a bit of time to realize what was happening. And in that time, the 3,000 PSG fans were singing with the drums, with everything. And it's a bit difficult. And as you just said as well, away support is usually the most hardcore, the fans that travel away, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think the Parc des Princes is going to be really incandescent on Wednesday next week. But that's not saying that you won't be able to hear the Arsenal fans either, the 3,000 of them that will travel. They'll be a bit higher up, but we heard a bit of Aston Villa when they went there. We heard a bit of Liverpool too. So it's true, but the Parc des Princes has had that really, this season especially. Maybe it's because the way the team is playing is such a likeable team and a great team to watch if you're a PSG fan, if you're in the stadium, that I think that also gets the crowd going. And for that, I think that the Parc des Princes has been wonderful this season.
Perry, on Martin Odigard, the Arsenal captain, there's been a lot made of his display yesterday. He's been out of sorts, I think it's fair to say, for a good couple of months now. And it's a shame because obviously we all know what a superb talent he is and we're all expecting him to get back to his best sooner rather than later. But last night, when you really needed a real inspirational performance from the captain, it just didn't come, did it?
Do you know what? I think with Odigard, he's not in any rhythm. I can tell you, I've watched him over probably about 10 games, and when he's flowing, he doesn't think. He actually just plays very naturally. I think he's missed Saka on the right-hand side. I think he's missed Kai Havertz up front because obviously he has a link-up play with him. And watching it last night, there was no lack of effort at all. And you could tell in the second half he got on the ball a little bit more. But there's a couple of times when he has a little give and go with Bukayo Saka, he didn't actually play the go. He didn't play the go. He didn't actually play when it come to him. When he plays it first time, he has his little chip pass where he chips it over. So I think he's probably overthinking it a little bit too much. And if it was me, I'd have taken him off after about 65, 70 minutes because we had a little lull in the game for that little period of time and we needed some fresh legs of inspiration. I would have put Nwaneri on a little bit earlier, but form's temporary, class is permanent. Do you know what I mean? And I could just tell, and you could tell he's getting frustrated with himself. When the ball's coming into him, he's not just quite getting himself on the turn and spinning. So from a player like him, you'll expect a massive performance in the second leg next Wednesday, I think it is. It next Wednesday?
Yeah, that's right. Simon, what did you make of Arsenal's midfield generally? Because it felt to me like the balance was a little bit off. We've touched on Partey's absence and Declan Rice was playing a role that he's not really been playing regularly for Arsenal for quite some time. Do you think that the whole dynamic of the midfield was the problem rather than us sort of highlighting any one individual?
Yeah, I just think it didn't quite sort of fit as well as it does when Partey's there. I think everyone knows their roles so well, and particularly for Rice, at West Ham, he was that player who sat in front of the back four and he would give the defence some protection. But I think what we've seen at Arsenal is that actually when he's off the leash, when you can let him go, I mean, they call him the horse, and you can see why, because the ground he covers, he has such a bigger impact. And I think in the Real Madrid, particularly in that second leg in the Bernabeu, where he had the freedom to just go and press and go and cause problems, he didn't want to do that yesterday because he knew if I go, I'm going to leave space, and he was kind of stuck in two minds. I thought he got a bit better when Lewis Skelly tucked in and gave him some protection. And what Lewis Skelly did as well, what Partey's so good at, is he can take the ball with his back to a player and spin them and go. And I think Rice, again, isn't as good as that. I think Partey gives that. So I think they kind of worked it out after about half an hour where the roles got better. Lewis Skelly gave some more in there. But the midfield, when everyone is there, when it's Partey, when it's Odigard, when it's Rice, it just functions so well. And I think what you got yesterday was just not as good a version of that. And that's probably why PSG in that 20, 25 minutes were able to get the space they did.